June stared at the message on his screen, reading it for the 5th time. His hands shook. This had to be a mistake. He was just a junior diplomat from Earth, working at a small office on Nexus 7, the busiest trade station at the edge of Imperial space. Selected for Imperial marriage evaluation by Crown Princess Mina herself, the message read, "Prepare for immediate transport." June looked around his tiny office. The walls were gray. The air smelled like coffee. Nothing special here. Nothing special about him either. "Kim," shouted Ambassador Lee from the hallway. "Get out here now." June stepped out to find not just the ambassador but 12 Imperial guards in shining armor. Their captain bowed slightly. "Diplomat Kim June," the captain said, "we are here to escort you to the selection ceremony." Ambassador Lee's face was red. "What did you do, Kim? Do you know what this means?" June shook his head. "Sir, I have no idea. There must be a mistake." "The princess does not make mistakes," the Imperial captain said. "You will come with us now." 20 minutes later, June found himself aboard a royal shuttle heading to the massive Imperial flagship hanging in orbit above Nexus 7. Everything happened so fast. He didn't even pack a bag. "The ceremony starts in 1 hour," said a female officer named Han. "I will prepare you." "Prepare me for what?" June asked. "I don't understand any of this." Officer Han looked at him with curiosity. "The Centennial Selection Ceremony. Crown Princess Mina will choose her future husband today from 100 finalists. The entire empire is watching." June's mouth fell open. "But I'm not a finalist. I didn't enter any competition." "All unmarried males between 20 and 40 standard years are automatically entered," Han explained. "There were over 10 million eligible candidates. The princess has been reviewing files for months." "But I'm human," June said. Han nodded. "Yes, the first human ever to make it to the final selection. It's unusual." When they reached the flagship, June was rushed through golden hallways filled with important-looking people. They all stared at him. Some looked angry. Others looked confused. No one looked happy. The Great Hall was enormous. 5,000 people sat in rising seats around a central platform. On a high throne sat Emperor Tejo, ruler of 87 star systems. Beside him, empty, was a smaller throne. June was led to stand in a line with 99 other men. They all wore fine clothes and looked important. Many were from old noble families with blue or purple skin. Some had extra eyes or limbs. All looked at June with hate or confusion. A tall man with golden skin whispered, "A human? Is this some kind of joke?" Another man spoke. "Prince Gan of the 7th system. 15 generations of royal blood. And I must stand beside this creature." June stood straight and kept quiet. Panic filled his chest, but he remembered his diplomatic training. Never show fear. Trumpets sounded. The crowd stood. Princess Mina entered. June caught his breath. She was beautiful in a way that seemed impossible. Tall and graceful, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow. Her hair was silver and moved like water. Her eyes, 3 of them, were deep purple. She wore a dress that changed colors as she walked. The princess took her seat. The emperor whispered something to her. She smiled but shook her head. A royal announcer stepped forward. "The crown princess will now make her selection." Princess Mina stood. She looked at the line of candidates carefully. When her eyes passed over June, she paused. He felt a strange tingle, as if she could see inside his mind. "As is my right by imperial law," she said in a clear voice, "I have reviewed all candidates. I have made my choice." The hall went silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. "I choose Kim June of Earth." The hall exploded with noise, shouts of anger, gasps of surprise. The emperor himself stood up, his face dark with rage. "Silence," Princess Mina commanded, and everyone obeyed. "My choice is made." June couldn't move. This wasn't happening. The man next to him, a duke or prince or something, looked ready to kill him. Imperial guards surrounded June and led him forward. As he approached the throne, he saw Princess Mina's face clearly. She wasn't just beautiful. She looked desperate, determined. There was something in her eyes beyond the formal ceremony. She extended her hand. June took it, as Officer Han had instructed him to do during their brief preparation. "Kim June," Princess Mina said, her voice softer now. "Do you accept this selection?" June knew he should say something diplomatic, something proper, but all he could think was that nothing in his life had prepared him for this moment. "Yes, Your Highness," he said simply, "though I don't understand why." June sat in his new room aboard the Imperial flagship. The walls were white crystal that changed color based on his mood. Right now, they were a nervous blue-green. The bed was twice as big as his old apartment. The clothes in his closet cost more than he made in a year. It had been 3 days since Princess Mina chose him. 3 days of confusion. A soft chime sounded at his door. "Come in," Jun said. A man with gray skin and perfect posture entered. He wore the black and silver uniform of the royal staff. "I am Da, your imperial handler," he said with a small bow. "I will prepare you for life at the palace." "Thank you," Jun said. "I have many questions." Day nodded. "The journey to Astra Prime will take 28 days. We will use this time for your training." "Can you tell me why the princess chose me?" Jun asked. Day's face showed nothing. "That is not for me to know. The princess's reasons are her own." Jun sighed. No one would give him a straight answer. "When will I see the princess again?" he asked. "Tonight," Da said. "There is a formal dinner. But first, we must begin your lessons." For the next 6 hours, Dai taught Jun the basics of court etiquette, how to bow to different ranks, which fork to use for which dish, how to address the emperor, never directly unless spoken to first. Jun's head hurt from all the rules. That evening, Jun entered the dining hall in his new formal clothes. The room glittered with gold and crystal. 50 important people sat at a long table. Princess Mina sat at the head. She waved Jun to the empty seat beside her. Everyone watched him walk across the room. "You look well," Princess Mina said as he sat down. "Is your room comfortable?" "Yes, Your Highness," Jun said, remembering his lessons. "Thank you for your kindness." She smiled. "Please, when we are like this, call me Mina." A man with blue skin and golden eyes spoke from across the table. "Princess, surely such informality is not appropriate with a human." Mina's smile vanished. "Lord Bin, I did not ask for your opinion." Lord Bin bowed his head, but his eyes showed hate when he looked at Jun. Dinner began. Jun tried to remember all his lessons. Use the small fork first. Don't drink until the princess drinks. Never reach across the table. "Tell me about Earth," Mina said. "I've never visited." Jun relaxed a little. This he could talk about. "It's beautiful. We have oceans and mountains and forests. Our cities are smaller than imperial ones. But—" A loud crash interrupted him. A server had dropped a tray of drinks. The liquid splashed toward Jun. In a blur of movement, Princess Mina's hand shot out. She caught the liquid in midair using some kind of force field, then sent it back into the cups, which she also caught before they hit the floor. The entire room went silent. "Clumsy," Mina said calmly. She looked at the server. "You are new." The server, shaking, nodded. "Return to the kitchen," Mina said. Then she turned to Dai, who stood by the wall. "Investigate him." Dinner continued, but Jun felt uneasy. "What just happened?" he whispered to Mina. "Someone tried to poison you," she said quietly, still eating as if nothing had happened. The liquid contained nerve toxin. Jun nearly choked on his food. "Poison. It won't be the last attempt," Mina said. "There are many who don't want you here." After dinner, Mina walked with Jun back to his room. Guards followed at a distance. "Why not just send me home?" June asked. If I'm causing trouble. No, Minna said sharply. You must stay close to me. But why? Why did you choose me? Minna stopped walking. She looked at June with all three of her eyes. Because you're different. Because humans have something the Empire needs. Something I need. What could I possibly have that the Empire needs? Before she could answer, an explosion rocked the hallway. The lights went out. Smoke filled the air. Get down, Minna shouted, pushing June to the floor. Three figures in black appeared from a side passage. They held weapons that glowed green. Minna stepped in front of June. She raised her hands, and blue energy spread from her fingers. The first attacker fired. Minna deflected the shot back at him. He fell. The other two attacked at once. Minna moved faster than June could follow. She jumped, spun in the air, and kicked one attacker into the wall. The last one she grabbed by the throat and lifted off the ground. Who sent you? She demanded. The attacker laughed. The human will die before we reach Astra Prime. The bloodline must remain pure. Guards rushed into the hallway. Minna handed the attacker to them. The Imperial capital planet, Astra Prime, looked like a jewel from space. Tall buildings made of crystal reached toward the stars. 3 moons circled the planet, each one home to millions of people. June stood at the window of the royal ship. After a month of travel and 4 more assassination attempts, they had finally arrived. Impressive, isn't it? Princess Minna asked, standing beside him. It's beautiful, June said. I've never seen anything like it. The Imperial Palace is there. Minna pointed to a massive structure in the center of the largest city. That will be your new home. June felt a knot in his stomach. During their journey, he had learned more about imperial politics from Da. The royal court was dangerous. People fought for power with words, poison, and sometimes weapons. Will your father be happy to meet me? June asked. Minna's face grew serious. No, the Emperor did not approve of my choice. Be careful around him. The ship landed at the royal spaceport. A line of guards in shining armor waited for them. They escorted June and Minna into a floating transport that moved silently through the city. People lined the streets to see their princess return. When they saw June sitting beside her, many looked surprised. Some shouted angry words. They don't like humans, June said quietly. They don't know humans, Minna corrected. You are the first human most of them have seen. The transport arrived at the palace. It was even bigger up close. June counted 100 steps, leading to the main entrance. Guards stood on every 5th step. Inside, the palace was a maze of hallways, rooms, and courtyards. Servants and nobles walked quickly, all seeming busy and important. Everyone stopped and bowed when Minna passed. They stared at June with wide eyes or narrow glares. The Emperor will see us now, Minna said, leading June toward massive golden doors. Remember what Day taught you. The throne room was the largest room June had ever seen. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. The floor was black marble that reflected like water. At the far end, on a platform, sat Emperor Taejo on his golden throne. June and Minna walked forward. The room was full of nobles and officials, all watching. June felt their eyes on his back. When they reached the proper distance, June knelt and bowed his head, just as Dai had taught him. Rise, said the Emperor. His voice was deep and cold. June stood and got his first good look at Emperor Taejo. He was tall with dark blue skin and 4 eyes. His hair was white and long. He wore armor instead of robes, even on his throne. Father, Minna said with a small bow, I present to you Kim June of Earth, my chosen one. The Emperor's top eyes narrowed. This is the human you threw away tradition for. This is why you rejected 10,000 suitable matches over the last century. He is what the Empire needs, Minna said firmly. What the Empire needs, the Emperor said coldly, is strength. Not this creature. June kept his face calm, though the words hurt. He remembered Dad's lessons. Never show weakness in court. With respect, Your Imperial Majesty, June said, I hope to prove my worth to you and the Empire. The Emperor looked surprised that June had spoken. Then he laughed, a sound without joy. At least it has manners, he said. Very well, daughter. Keep your pet human. But he stays out of Imperial business. He will stay in the rooms connected to mine, Minna said. Whispers filled the throne room. Even the Emperor looked shocked. That is not appropriate, he said. It is necessary for his safety, Minna replied. Unless you can guarantee no harm will come to him. The Emperor and Princess stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, the Emperor waved his hand. Do as you wish, but remember your duties to the Empire come first. After they left the throne room, Minna led June through more hallways to her private wing of the palace. Guards opened large doors to reveal a beautiful garden inside the building. Beyond it were Mina's rooms, and connected to them, a smaller but still grand set of rooms for June. These will be your quarters, Minna said. The door between our rooms has security only you and I can open. Why are you protecting me so much? June asked. The Emperor clearly doesn't like me, and keeping me close to you is causing problems. Minna walked to a window overlooking the city. Do you know how old I am, June? No, Your Highness. I am 342 years old, she said. I have rejected suitors for over a century because none were right for what I need. June's eyes widened. And what do you need? A solution, she said simply. The royal bloodline is dying, June. Something is wrong with our genetics. Each generation grows weaker. I needed someone different, someone whose blood might save us. And you think human blood can help? The welcome banquet was held in the Grand Hall. 1,000 nobles attended. They wore clothes that shimmered with colors June had never seen before. The ceiling looked like the night sky, with real stars moving slowly across it. June sat beside Princess Minna at the high table. He tried to remember all his lessons from Da. Use the correct fork. Don't speak unless spoken to. Never turn your back on the Emperor. You're doing well, Minna whispered to him. A tall woman with silver skin approached their table and bowed. Princess Minna, may I have the honor of meeting your chosen one? Of course, Minna said. June, this is Lady Bo, head of scientific research for the Empire. Lady Bo studied June with eyes that changed color as they looked at him. Fascinating. I've never examined a human up close before. Would you permit me to take some samples? Samples? June asked nervously. Blood tissue, perhaps a scan of your brain. Lady Bo said this as if asking for something simple, like a handshake. Now is not the time. Lady Bo, Minna said firmly. Of course, Princess. Perhaps tomorrow. The human factor is most intriguing. After Lady Bo left, June turned to Minna. The human factor. What did she mean? Minna sighed. It's what our scientists call the special traits of your species. Humans are unique in the galaxy. In what way? Adaptive neuroplasticity, Minna said. Your brains can change throughout your lives. You learn differently than other species. Before Minna could explain more, a group of young nobles approached. Unlike most at the banquet, they seemed friendly toward June. Princess, said a man with blue-green skin and a friendly smile. May we greet the human. June, these are the young lords, Minna said. Lord Jin, Lady Era, and Lord Wook. They have studied on Earth. We found your planet quite fascinating, Lady Era said. She had pink skin and wore a dress made of living flowers. Humans create such interesting art and music. And your ability to adapt to different environments is remarkable, Lord Jin added. No other species can live in so many different conditions. June felt more comfortable with these younger nobles. They asked him questions about Earth and seemed genuinely interested in his answers. When they left, June noticed a man watching him from across the room. He had dark purple skin and cold eyes. When he saw June looking at him, he raised his glass in a mock toast. "Who is that?" June asked Mina. "Grand Duke's son," she said quietly. "Head of the oldest noble house and my father's closest advisor. Be very careful around him." As the night went on, June met more people than he could remember. Some were polite but cold. Others barely hid their disgust at seeing a human at the high table. Late in the evening, Mina took June away from the banquet. Instead of returning to their rooms, she led him deep below the palace. "Where are we going?" June asked as they walked down a spiral staircase that seemed to go on forever. "I need to show you something," Mina said. "Something only the royal family knows." They reached a door made of metal that looked ancient. Mina placed her hand on it, and it opened silently. Inside was a laboratory filled with strange equipment. An old man with light green skin looked up from his work. "Princess, you've brought him." "This is Juan, royal scientist for 3 generations," Mina said. "He's been studying our problem." Juan came closer to June. "May I?" he asked, holding up a small device. June looked at Mina, who nodded. "It's safe," she said. June stood still as Juan ran the device over his arm. It made a soft humming sound. "Remarkable," Juan said, looking at the readings. "Complete neural plasticity, just as we hoped." "Can you explain what's going on?" June asked. "Why is everyone so interested in human brains?" Mina and Juan exchanged looks. Then Mina touched a panel on the wall. A large screen appeared, showing what looked like DNA strands. "This is Imperial DNA," she said. "For 10,000 years, we have used technology to make ourselves stronger, smarter, and longer-lived. But there was a cost," Juan continued. "Our DNA became fixed. We cannot adapt naturally anymore. And now," he touched the screen, and the DNA strands began to break apart. "We're breaking down. The royal family worst of all," Mina added. "Each generation is weaker. Many cannot have children. Those who do often have children who die young." Jun began to understand. "And you think humans can help because we adapt naturally?" "Exactly," Juan said excitedly. "Human DNA might be the key to saving the royal line." "Is that the only reason you chose me?" June asked Mina directly. "For my DNA." The room went quiet. Juan suddenly found something very interesting to look at on his screen. Mina stepped closer to June. "It was the main reason at first," she admitted. "But now," she stopped, seeming unsure what to say. "All royal consorts must pass the 7 trials," Dad explained as he helped June dress in a special suit. "No exceptions, not even for you." It had been 2 weeks since June learned about the Empire's genetic problem. Now he faced a new challenge. "What are these trials?" June asked. The suit felt strange on his skin. It was light but strong, with thin lines of blue energy running through it. "Tests of mind, body, and character," Day said. "Designed to prove you are worthy to join the royal family." June frowned. "Designed for Imperials with enhanced abilities, not humans." "Yes," Day admitted. "No non-Imperial has ever passed all 7. Most don't survive the 3rd trial." "That's not very encouraging," Jun said. Day finished adjusting Jun's suit. "The princess believes in you. That should be encouraging enough." The trial chamber was a large round room with high walls. Seats circled the walls where hundreds of nobles watched. The emperor sat in a special box with his advisors. Mina sat in her own box nearby. Grand Duke's son stood in the center of the room. He wore ceremonial armor and looked pleased with himself. "The human will now face the 7 trials," he announced, "as tradition demands." June walked to the center of the room. He could feel everyone watching him. "The first trial is the trial of mind," Grand Duke's son said. "Let it begin." The floor opened beneath June, and he fell into darkness. He landed in a small room with a single light. In front of him was a table with strange objects on it. A voice spoke from nowhere. "Arrange the objects to show the pattern of imperial expansion over 3 centuries." June looked at the objects. There were 50 small metal pieces of different shapes and colors. He had studied imperial history with Da, but hadn't memorized expansion patterns. Think like a human, he told himself. Humans were good at finding patterns. He studied the pieces, looking for clues. Slowly, he began to see it. The colors matched star types. The shapes showed planetary systems. He arranged them carefully, showing how the empire had grown from its homeworld. When he placed the last piece, the room changed. Now he was in a forest. The trial of body had begun. "Cross the forest before sunrise," the voice said. "Beware the hunters." June looked up at the strange pink sky. It was already getting dark. He started running. Soon he heard sounds behind him. Something was chasing him. He ran faster, pushing through thick plants and jumping over fallen trees. A creature appeared in front of him, tall, with long arms and sharp teeth. June dodged to the side, rolling under a low branch. The creature followed. June remembered something Dai had taught him. Imperial hunters always chased their prey directly. They didn't think about tricks. June ran toward a river, then doubled back behind a large tree. The creature ran past him. June went in a different direction, using the forest to hide. As the sky began to lighten, June reached the edge of the forest. The second trial was complete. Each trial tested June in new ways. The trial of courage put him face to face with his worst fears. The trial of wisdom made him solve impossible problems. The trial of strength forced him to lift weights that no human should be able to move. Somehow, he passed each one. By the sixth trial, Jun was exhausted. His body hurt. His mind felt slow. But he kept going. "The trial of loyalty," the voice announced. Jun found himself in a room with two doors. Princess Minna stood by one door. Emperor Tejo stood by the other. "Choose," they said together. Jun understood the test. Whom did he serve, the princess or the empire? "The human has passed the trials," he announced. "This has not happened in the history of our empire." Jun stood tall, though his body ached and his mind was tired. "Perhaps," the emperor continued, "there is more to humans than we thought." Minna came down to stand beside Jun. She took his hand, a public gesture that caused more whispers. "You have earned your place here," she said, loud enough for all to hear. "Not just as my chosen one, but as a true member of the court." For the first time since arriving at the palace, Jun felt he might actually belong. A month after passing the trials, Jun's life had changed. Some nobles now bowed to him in the hallways. Servants brought him gifts. Even the emperor had spoken to him directly twice. Jun spent his mornings with Juan in the secret lab, giving blood samples and trying strange tests. His afternoons were spent learning imperial history and customs with Da. His evenings belonged to Mena. Tonight, they walked in the palace gardens under 3 moons. Guards stayed far behind them, giving them privacy. "Your blood is helping," Minna said. "Juan says the tests look promising." "I'm glad," Jun said. "But something still bothers me. If this problem has existed for generations, why didn't you look for humans sooner?" Minna stopped walking. Her 3 eyes looked troubled. "That's what's strange. Records show we did. 300 years ago, the Empire made contact with Earth. Scientists took human samples back then." "What happened to that research?" Jun asked. "It disappeared," Minna said, "along with the scientists." A chill ran through Jun despite the warm night. Someone didn't want the research to continue. "Exactly," Minna said. "And I think that same someone is behind the attacks on you." They continued walking, both deep in thought. When they returned to their rooms, Lord Jin was waiting for them. "Princess," he said with a bow. "Human." He nodded at Jun with respect. "I bring news from my family's mining colony. Something strange was found in old records." Jin handed Minna a small data crystal. "My father thought you should see this privately." After Jin left, Minna inserted the crystal into a reader. A hologram appeared, showing old imperial text. "It's a report from 3 centuries ago," Minna translated for June. About genetic manipulation. They read the report together. It described a plan to alter the royal bloodline, making it stronger but also dependent on special treatments. The plan was presented as an improvement, but the report warned it would eventually cause breakdown. This wasn't an accident, Jum said, understanding. Someone did this to your family on purpose. Mina's face showed anger for the first time since June had met her. We need to find out who. The next morning, they went to see Juan. The old scientist read the report carefully. This explains everything, he said. The royal line wasn't just enhanced. It was sabotage, designed to fail after a certain number of generations. Can you tell who did it? June asked. Juan pointed to a symbol at the bottom of the report. This is the mark of House Sun. Grand Duke Sun's family, Minna said. Her voice was cold. The oldest noble house and always close to the throne. Too close, Jum said. They'd been waiting for the royal line to fail so they could take power. We need more proof, Minna said. My father won't believe this without solid evidence. Juan looked at June. I think I know how to get it, and it involves your human DNA. For the next week, June and Juan worked day and night in the lab. Minna joined them when she could escape her royal duties. They tested June's blood against old samples from the royal family. Look here, Juan said one night, pointing to a screen showing DNA strands. The manipulation is clear. Someone changed this specific gene to make it break down over time, and my DNA can fix it, June asked. Better than fix it, Juan said excitedly. Human adaptability can reverse the sabotage completely. Your genes can teach the royal DNA to repair itself. Minna looked at the results with hope in her eyes. This is what I've been searching for. Just then, the lab door opened. Lady Bo entered, followed by 2 guards. What are you doing here? Minna demanded. Following you, Princess, Lady Bo said. Her voice was different now, cold and hard. You've been spending too much time down here. Lady Bo looked at the screens showing the DNA research. Her eyes widened. You've discovered it. After all these centuries. You knew? Minna asked, stepping between Lady Bo and the screens. Of course, Lady Bo smiled. House Sun has always known. We created the problem, after all. A perfect plan. Make the royal line dependent on treatments only we could provide. Then slowly let it die out. Joan heard the guards coming closer. Lady Bo smiled, thinking she had won. But Joan had learned much since coming to the palace. Records, Jum said loudly. Show hall security feed. A screen appeared in the air. It showed everything that had just happened in the lab. Lady Bo confessing, ordering the guards to kill them. The explosion. Lady Bo's smile disappeared. How did you? Princess Minna taught me the voice commands, Jun said. All royal areas are recorded. The Imperial Guards arrived. Their captain looked at the floating screen, then at Lady Bo. Lady Bo of House Sun, you are under arrest for treason against the Empire, the captain said. Lady Bo screamed in rage. She pulled a hidden weapon from her sleeve and fired at June. He jumped aside, feeling the heat of the blast pass his ear. The guards quickly surrounded Lady Bo and took her away. Jun ran back down to the lab. Smoke filled the room. He found Minna helping Juan to his feet. Are you both all right? Jun asked. Yes, Minna said. But our research. Juan held up a small data crystal. Safe. I backed up everything. Lady Bo has been arrested, Jun told them. But Grand Duke Sun will know something is wrong when she doesn't report back. We need to tell my father immediately, Minna said. They hurried through the palace toward the Emperor's quarters. The halls seemed strangely empty. No servants, few guards. Something's wrong, Minna whispered. When they reached the Emperor's wing, they found the guards outside his door lying on the floor. They weren't dead, just unconscious. It's starting, Minna said. The coup. Inside the Emperor's chambers, they found him slumped in his chair. A servant was checking his pulse. "Father." Minna rushed to him. "He's alive," the servant said, "but he was given something in his evening drink. He cannot move or speak." "Grand Duke's son?" June asked. The servant nodded. "He was here an hour ago. He said there was an emergency meeting of the High Council. All loyal houses must attend. He's gathering his allies and removing those who would oppose him." Minna said, "We must stop him." Alarms began to sound throughout the palace. Through the windows, June could see ships landing in the courtyards. Soldiers in the colors of House Sun poured out. "We need to get the cure to a safe place," Juan said, clutching the data crystal, "and find somewhere to produce it." "The medical facility in the East Wing," Minna said. "It has everything we need." They tried to take the main hallway, but it was blocked by Sun's soldiers. They were forced to go the long way, through servant passages and rarely used corridors. "Princess," Jum said as they ran, "if we reach the medical facility, how long will it take to produce the cure?" "Hours," Juan answered for her. "We need to combine your DNA with the royal genetic material, then create the treatment." They turned a corner and found 5 of Sun's guards blocking the way. Minna stepped forward. "Stand aside," she commanded. "Sorry, Princess," one guard said. "We have new orders from the acting emperor." "Acting emperor?" Minna's voice was dangerous. "Grand Duke's son has taken temporary control due to your father's illness," the guard said. "He's ordered you confined to your quarters for safety." Minna moved faster than June could follow. She knocked down 3 guards before they could raise their weapons. The 4th fired, but she dodged and kicked him into the wall. The 5th guard dropped his weapon and ran. "We need to split up," Minna said. "They'll be looking for me more than you." "No," June protested. "It's too dangerous." "June," Minna took his hands. "The cure is what matters. You and Juan must reach the medical facility. I'll draw their attention away." Before June could argue more, she kissed him quickly. "Find Lord Jin and the young lords. They'll help you." Then she was gone, running toward the sounds of fighting. June and Juan continued toward the medical facility. The old scientist was getting tired. "I can't go much faster," Juan said, breathing hard. They heard footsteps behind them. June pulled Juan into a small room and closed the door. They waited, hardly breathing, as the footsteps passed. "How much farther?" June whispered. "Not far," Juan said, "but we need to cross the main courtyard." When they looked out the window, they saw the courtyard filled with Sun's soldiers. It seemed impossible to cross without being seen. "There's another way," Juan said. "The old service tunnels, but they haven't been used in centuries." The tunnels were dark and dusty. June used a light from his suit to see the way. They walked for what seemed like hours. "There," Juan pointed ahead. "That ladder leads up to the medical wing." June heard the guards coming closer. Lady Bo smiled, thinking she had won. But June had learned much since coming to the palace. "Records," June said loudly. "Show hall security feed." A screen appeared in the air. It showed everything that had just happened in the lab. Lady Bo confessing, ordering the guards to kill them. The explosion. Lady Bo's smile disappeared. "How did you?" "Princess Minna taught me the voice commands," Jun said. "All royal areas are recorded." The Imperial Guards arrived. Their captain looked at the floating screen, then at Lady Bo. "Lady Bo of House Sun, you are under arrest for treason against the Empire," the captain said. Lady Bo screamed in rage. She pulled a hidden weapon from her sleeve and fired at June. He jumped aside, feeling the heat of the blast pass his ear. The guards quickly surrounded Lady Bo and took her away. June ran back down to the lab. Smoke filled the room. He found Mina helping Juan to his feet. "Are you both all right?" June asked. "Yes," Mina said. "But our research?" Juan held up a small data crystal. "Safe. I backed up everything." "Lady Bo has been arrested," Jun told them. But Grand Duke's son will know something is wrong when she doesn't report back. We need to tell my father immediately, Minna said. They hurried through the palace toward the emperor's quarters. The halls seemed strangely empty. No servants, few guards. Something's wrong, Minna whispered. When they reached the emperor's wing, they found the guards outside his door lying on the floor. They weren't dead, just unconscious. It's starting, Minna said. The coup. Inside the emperor's chambers, they found him slumped in his chair. A servant was checking his pulse. Father. Minna rushed to him. He's alive, the servant said, but he was given something in his evening drink. He cannot move or speak. Grand Duke's son, Jun asked. The servant nodded. He was here an hour ago. He said there was an emergency meeting of the High Council. All loyal houses must attend. He's gathering his allies and removing those who would oppose him. Minna said, we must stop him. Alarms began to sound throughout the palace. Through the windows, Jun could see ships landing in the courtyards. Soldiers in the colors of House Sun poured out. We need to get the cure to a safe place, Huan said, clutching the data crystal, and find somewhere to produce it. The medical facility in the East Wing, Minna said. It has everything we need. They tried to take the main hallway, but it was blocked by Sun's soldiers. They were forced to go the long way, through servant passages and rarely used corridors. Princess, Jun said as they ran, if we reach the medical facility, how long will it take to produce the cure? Hours, Huan answered for her. We need to combine your DNA with the royal genetic material, then create the treatment. They turned a corner and found 5 of Sun's guards blocking the way. Minna stepped forward. Stand aside, she commanded. Sorry, Princess, one guard said. We have new orders from the acting emperor. Acting emperor. Minna's voice was dangerous. Grand Duke's son has taken temporary control due to your father's illness, the guard said. He's ordered you confined to your quarters for safety. Minna moved faster than Jun could follow. She knocked down 3 guards before they could raise their weapons. The 4th fired, but she dodged and kicked him into the wall. The 5th guard dropped his weapon and ran. We need to split up, Minna said. They'll be looking for me more than you. No, Jun protested. It's too dangerous. Jun, Minna took his hands. The cure is what matters. You and Huan must reach the medical facility. I'll draw their attention away. Before Jun could argue more, she kissed him quickly. Find Lord Jin and the young lords. They'll help you. Then she was gone, running toward the sounds of fighting. Jun and Huan continued toward the medical facility. The old scientist was getting tired. I can't go much faster, Huan said, breathing hard. They heard footsteps behind them. Jun pulled Huan into a small room and closed the door. They'd waited, hardly breathing, as the footsteps passed. How much farther? Jun whispered. Not far, Huan said. But we need to cross the main courtyard. When they looked out the window, they saw the courtyard filled with Sun's soldiers. It seemed impossible to cross without being seen. There's another way, Huan said. The old service tunnels, but they haven't been used in centuries. The tunnels were dark and dusty. Jun used a light from his suit to see the way. They walked for what seemed like hours. Grand Duke's son walked into the medical facility with 6 elite guards. His face showed confidence, but his eyes darted around the room. Princess, he said with a bow that was more mockery than respect, I'm told you wish to surrender the cure. Minna stood in the center of the room. She looked calm. Grand Duke, your coup has failed. Most of your forces have been captured. Nonsense, Sun said. I control most of the palace. Your father is ill and unable to rule. As the highest-ranking noble, I am acting emperor. Is that what you've always wanted? Jun asked, stepping forward. To be emperor. Sun's eyes narrowed when he saw Jun. The human pet speaks. You should have died many times by now. Your family planned this for centuries, Jun continued, sabotaging the royal bloodline. waiting for it to fail. Clever human, Sun said with a cold smile. Yes, we planned it. House Sun ruled this sector before the current dynasty. We will rule again. Minna nodded to Juan, who pressed a button on his control pad. Screens around the room lit up, showing Sun's confession to everyone in the palace. You're broadcasting this? Sun asked, suddenly less confident. To every screen in the empire, Minna confirmed. Your own words condemn you. Sun's face darkened with rage. Kill them all, he ordered his guards. But before the guards could move, the floor beneath them glowed blue. They froze in place, unable to move. Another ancient security feature, June explained. Paralysis fields. I found them when I connected to the palace systems. Impossible, Sun shouted. No human could connect to royal technology. That's what makes humans special, Minna said. They adapt. They do things we think are impossible. Sun reached for a hidden weapon, but Minna moved faster. She knocked the weapon away and pinned Sun against the wall. For 3 centuries, your family poisoned mine, she said. That ends today. Guards loyal to the princess entered the room and took Sun and his men away. Through the palace communication system, reports came in. The coup was over. Sun's forces were surrendering throughout the palace. We need to get the cure to my father, Minna said. They hurried to the emperor's chambers, Juan carrying the precious vial. They found the emperor still in his chair, unable to move but conscious. His eyes showed recognition when they entered. Juan carefully gave the emperor the golden liquid. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the emperor took a deep breath and moved his fingers. It's working, Juan said with joy. The human DNA is teaching his cells to repair themselves. An hour later, the emperor could speak again. His first words were to June. You saved my daughter, my throne, and my bloodline, he said. His voice was still weak but clear. How can I repay such a debt? Before June could answer, alarms sounded again. A guard rushed in. Your Majesty, Lady Bo has escaped. She's heading for the planetary defense control room. If she fires the orbital weapons at the palace, thousands will die, Minna said. June closed his eyes, concentrating. He reached for the connection to the palace systems again. Pain shot through his head, but he pushed through it. I can stop her, he said, blood beginning to trickle from his nose again. But I need to get closer to the main system. The emperor nodded to his guards. Take him there. Protect him with your lives. Minna touched June's face gently. Be careful. The connection nearly killed you last time. I'll be fine, June said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. They raced to the central control hub. Through security cameras, they watched Lady Bo override security to enter the defense control room. She began activating the orbital weapons. Decades. The human DNA didn't weaken our bloodline. It saved it.